getting myself sorted out here. Sorry about this. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Eno River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm Reverend Deborah Kerr, and whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever your race, your gender, whomever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, welcome to this spiritual community this morning. It's a good morning to be in community. If you're new here, especially if you're visiting today, please introduce yourself by saying hello in the chat box. You will find a link there also that will get you information about us if you're looking for that. And starting next Sunday, September 27th, the Inquirer series of classes for newcomers and visitors returns at 12 noon on Zoom. So that's a chance for you each week to meet different ministers, staff, and other lay leaders in our congregation and help you learn more about ERUUF. If you're interested in attending, just see the registration link in the chat box. It's also in our weekly e-news, and you can find it on our website, or you can send an email to membership@eruuf.org. Here at ERUUF, we have begun a phase 2 reopening plan. Basically, at this time, what this means is that our groups are able to use outside space. So group leaders will sign up, they'll receive confirmation of an outside space, they'll share the rules of use with their groups so that we can all keep each other safe. It's the most important thing. Unless otherwise denounced, at this time, our campus buildings are closed, except there will be bathrooms open in the fellowship hall. But all of our other programs continue online. Speaking of online, I am so happy to let you know that today, Eno River UU Fellowship's virtual Connections Fair has officially begun. Connecting with You is an interactive website that has been created for the fair. It is up, it is running, it's got lots of information, some fun games. Some of us have lost productivity this past week because of that little dinosaur, just saying. It's an awesome site, great information. And then today, the Connections Fair itself is this afternoon, and that's a time when you are able to learn about our various groups, how to connect at ERUUF. That's today from noon until 1:30. And here's another cool thing. You can access this from the Connections Fair website, and you're going to be able to move yourself from group to group at your own pace. So you can get in and get out as you need to. There is so much more information about what's going on around here during the week. You can find those links from the homepage on our website, eruuf.org. This morning's service is led by Reverend Jacqueline Brett. Henry Amador Batten is our worship associate. Live music is presented by Kate Lewis and Laura Marie Davis, our cantor in the chapel, which is now our new sound booth. Today's service would not be possible without our wonderful tech team, Jenny Jolly, Sean Trimble, and Scott Gaskins on sound. So I want to invite us now to center ourselves and take a deep breath in. And let it out. And feel yourself in the goodness of this bright, beautiful morning, the crisp fall air, the goodness of this beloved community. Let's begin our service.
Good morning. As many of you know, this past Friday, the world lost an icon and a giant. We here at ERUUF join with so many others in mourning the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Justice Ginsburg was profoundly committed to our democracy. Her life changed so many of our lives as she championed the movement for gender equity and voted in support of reproductive rights, voting rights, LGBTQ rights, and criminal justice. And so I invite you to join me for a moment of silence as we hold Justice Ginsburg and her family in our hearts. Ashe and Amen. Our opening words this morning are by Reverend Leslie Takahashi. Come, come, whoever you are, come with your hurts, your imperfections, your places that feel raw and exposed. Come, come, whoever you are, come with your strengths that the world shudders to hold. Come with your wild imaginings of a better world. Come with your hopes that it seems no one wants to hear. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, we will make a place for you. We will build a home together. Ours is no caravan of despair. We travel together. Come, yet again, come.
We light this chalice, not because we have the truth, but because we each come bearing and seeking many truths. We light this chalice in connection across culture, distance, class, and language. We light this chalice that our religion may be a beacon of light and of hope and of justice. We light this chalice to kindle our hearts and our mind.
Our first hymn this morning is Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Laura Marie Davis will lead us in the song. Kate Lewis will accompany us on piano, and the words will appear on your screen. So join us in singing.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia Ward and I joined ERUUF in April of 2019. I joined my first Chalice Circle this past fall and I really can't recommend it enough. Covenant groups and Chalice Circles are a really great way to explore some of life's major issues in a safe and supportive environment. The groups are also an excellent way to get to know more people and make friends, especially if you're relatively new to ERUUF. I personally had the opportunity to join a Chalice Circle that was specifically for young adults, which was a really great way to connect and build relationships with a group of other people at ERUUF who are around my same age. But generally, the groups span a wide age range and allow you to get to know folks at ERUUF that you might not otherwise meet. And last year's program included over 170 people across 18 groups. Covenant groups meet twice a month and last throughout the year, while Chalice Circles meet once a month, and that's really the only difference between the two types of groups. For both groups, meetings last around an hour and a half to 2 hours, and each group has around 8 to 10 people, one of whom is a trained leader. The groups also all develop their own covenants early on in the process. The covenant will set the guidelines for confidentiality, showing up, listening, sharing, and anything else the group deems important for fostering a safe and supportive environment. For the first couple of sessions, the leader will typically choose the topic, but after that, others in the group might take turns taking the reins, so to speak, if they have a topic they'd like to discuss. I really enjoyed the wide variety of topics we talked about in my Chalice Circle this year, ranging from heavier topics like resilience and white privilege, all the way to what would we do if we won the lottery tomorrow. Something that's really central to the philosophy of these groups is the idea of deeply listening to one another. The groups are structured in such a way that everyone has a chance to speak before anyone does so twice. So when we're speaking, we know that we're not going to be interrupted or given advice or argued with. We're just listened to. It's this listening that I really like. In other settings, I often find myself thinking about what I'm going to say next when others are talking to me and not really listening to what they're saying. And this opportunity that I get in my Chalice Circle to just be present and listen has actually helped me to be a better listener outside of my Chalice Circle too. So if this kind of spiritual, intellectual, and social connection with other folks at ERUUF sounds appealing to you, I would really encourage you to sign up for a Chalice Circle or Covenant group. And if this kind of connection doesn't sound appealing to you, I would still encourage you to sign up for a group and see if there might be something good waiting for you on the other side of that discomfort. There has been for me, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the upcoming year has in store. You can find more information on Covenant groups and Chalice Circles on the ERUUF website or at the Connections Fair on September 20th.
At this time, I invite you to join me for meditation, spoken meditation and prayer. The great Jewish humorist Sam Levinson wrote, "My folks were immigrants, and they believed what they'd heard, that in America the streets were paved with gold. But when my father got here, he found out three things. First, he saw that the streets were not paved with gold. The second thing that he noticed was that the streets were not even paved. And last but not least, he discovered that he was the one that was expected to do the paving." Rabbi Stephen Chaim Litzfeld says that there are three things we ought to understand when we begin anything new. First, we ought to have a dream of some great thing that could someday be. And second, we need to find out the reality of how things actually are today. And last but not least, we need to figure out what must be done to make life livable for everyone. This morning, at the beginning of the High Holy Days, as we consider the connections between humor and resilience, between suffering and solidarity, this morning we remember the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who excelled in law school, graduated at the top of her class, and then found every door of every law firm closed to her because of her gender. She dreamed of what ought to be. She discovered the cold reality of her time. She let her experience lead her to do everything she could to make life better for everyone. Everyone. She persisted. She dissented. She prevailed. May Justice Ginsburg's humility and dedication, her determination, her great humor, and her great love live on within our minds and our hearts. Despite the onslaught of new and ever more frightening realities of these times, may we too hold on to a vision of the good that yet could be. May we have the determination to stay awake to suffering, the courage not to turn away, so that we might receive the blessing of solidarity that comes when we have learned to see each other as our own. Together, may we find a way to figure out what must be done, what steps we need to take to help create the world we dream about together. This morning, we hold in our hearts all who suffer and all who mourn, all who are unemployed, all whose businesses are struggling, all who live a life that is cramped and dangerous because of racial injustice. We hold in our hearts all who are affected by wildfires, hurricanes, all natural disasters made unnaturally devastating by climate change. We hold in our hearts everyone who is ill or uneasy for any reason in body, mind, or spirit. We send our love and compassion to anyone who can't see a way forward, who is living in fear about what tomorrow will bring. Let's pause here for a moment of silence to hold all of these things in the great chamber of our hearts. We have seen a vision of the great things that could be. We have been shocked by the cold realities of our times. May we be willing to suffer together so that we might find solidarity with each other and with the earth. And together, may we find ways to create the world we believe is possible and ways to help make life more possible and more sustainable for everyone. Together, we are going on. Ashe. Amen. Blessed be.
Whether we have arrived from the trips some of us have managed to venture out on over the summer, or we've remained hunkered down close to our homes, we gather together this month to focus on renewing our sense of who we are as a people who, with intention, participate in creating this community together. What does it mean for us to be connected one to another, especially when we expand out beyond our chosen pod to consider all the many, many others we're connected to? And for some of us, our great need for that connection. What does it mean for us to feel the unexpected pangs of disconnection? And what is the great meaning of this time now, when many of us are out and about, renewing our physical connections with one another and with the world? So we won't claim to provide definitive answers to all of these questions today, but they are certainly worthy of our thoughts. And so Henry Amador Batten begins with a personal reflection called, "Hello? Is anybody out there?"
In the beginning, this self-proclaimed introvert found the idea of quarantining and staying at home somewhat welcoming. My husband, since he had been going out daily for work, was already accustomed to the new norms, took on the role of our hunter-gatherer, and the boys and I prepared ourselves and our home to be as comfortable and as self-providing as we could be. We dusted off some of the old board games, voted on new learning and bedtime schedules, and even if I say so myself, felt quite prepared for what might come our way. I kind of likened it to having survived so many hurricanes in Florida, but I quickly learned how different this was. The very first thing I missed was human interaction. You would have thought it would be Bojangles, but it was not. It was human interaction. The writer in me sees this opportunity to begin to write a handwritten journal of what was happening both near and far, but this did very little to satisfy my hunger for another human being outside of our home. I then switched to vlogging and live recordings and lives and all those various methods that we use on our social media platforms. They usually began with, "Hello, my loves. This is day 12 or 17 or 20 or 30 of life at home during the pandemic. How are you?" And I would basically ramble on for about 6-7 minutes about life. And I continued this somewhat cathartic practice for quite some time. Now, they varied in location on our property. They varied in my outfit choices and whether or not the kids or the dogs or my husband may make a guest appearance. And of course, they varied in mood. I was often very hopeful, but I was also often in tears, and not the happy kind. One day I reached a breaking point, and rather than hitting that live button, I literally wandered out onto our neighborhood street, and I yelled at the top of my lungs, "Hello, is anybody out there?" Only silence echoed back, and not the guy that gives up easily, I walked further out to the closest intersection of our really busy street. There was an eerie emptiness there, not a car, not a person in sight. But once again, "Hello, is there anybody out there?" And again, nothing. I went home like so many of us have done during these harrowing days, and I crawled back into bed. I stayed there until the next time the sun showed her face. I was met by my phone alerting me with all its might to all of these various messages. There was an easy 20, 25 or more from friends and acquaintances who were worried and who were just checking in. You see, apparently my daily rambles had become a part of their daily routine, and going missing in action for that one day raised a red flag. And there it was, my loves. In all my desire to see another human, I had forgotten our abilities to connect with one another in the most beautiful and magical of ways. I had wandered much further than necessary, looking for somebody, anybody out there, when all along there were so many right there within me.
Several years ago, the Reverend Dr. William Barber stood on this very chancel floor at this very podium and spoke to those of us in attendance about time. Two different forms of it used by the ancient Greeks and referred to as Kronos time and Kairos time. While Kronos signified chronological or sequential time, Kairos was different. It referred to a critical or opportune moment, a time in between, a moment when something special happens, a moment that was undetermined in length, a moment that was usually a time of crisis. And according to the New World Encyclopedia, as a result of the time of crisis, it is during Kairos that one has the possibility of participating in a new creation. One has the choice of danger or opportunity, a chance to build something new out of the old. Kairos time bridges the tearing down of the old way with the building of a new way. Reverend Barbara spoke to us about this around the time the Moral Monday rallies had begun to receive national attention. Barbara had led those rallies as president of North Carolina's chapter of the NAACP, and many here at ERUUF participated in them. Some even got arrested. Reverend Barbara declared that this time we were in, and that was over 6 years ago, was Kairos time, a critical moment that had the capacity to change things, an opportune time for right action. His words were truly prophetic because we have been in Kairos time ever since, if not a few years before his declaration. Remember, Kairos is undetermined in length. And right now, it seems to be ratcheting up ever more quickly as we move from one moment of crisis to the next in a time of world-changing events of epic proportions. Epic because these events are not happening in our singular lives, to us here at ERUUF or in North Carolina or even the United States alone. While we in America might have easily isolated ourselves from the ills of the world in other times, we can now easily see that what is occurring in this time is occurring for all of us globally, and in some ways, for us particularly. It is almost as if one thing happens and it travels around the world, whether it is a virus, a protest, distress about the leadership of our nations, or the dire concern, finally, about the floods, fires, and changes to the planet we inhabit that are impacting lives the world over and will continue to do so. And whether it is because of one of these or something else, over this past year, most of us have finally awakened to our great disconnect. Even as we who are UUs hold ourselves in awareness of the interdependent web of all existence, In the past, we too have had to be reminded of it constantly, because despite our principle of interdependence, we also happen to be a people who are fiercely independent. People who love rational thinking and all to be gained from intelligence and individualism. And though I celebrate our ability to think and reason, I do believe that at times an intellectual focus, privileges of one sort or another, and individualistic ways of being have often gotten in the way of fully understanding interdependence beyond a superficial level. The wisdom teachings from all over the world spoke of this millennia before. It has taken science to prove to us just how interdependent we are through a virus. A virus that doesn't care about our boundaries, our borders, how privileged or smart we are. A virus that has exposed the shadow side of independence and individualism run amok. What UUA President Susan Frederick Gray has called interlocking systemic issues of exploitation, poverty, and dehumanization, which are making the impacts of the coronavirus worse for communities of color, indigenous people, and the poor. These impacts, she has acknowledged, are the direct result of generations of racism, divestment, redlining, and discrimination. They show up as disparities in environmental pollutants in neighborhoods. Who is able to telework and who isn't? Who has never had consistent access to healthy food and adequate health care? Who must be still out working in low-paid essential services? And this season of our great disconnect, the time when we have been asked to exist in social distance from one another and at varying times to shelter in place, the world, including we UUs in the world, have awakened to the realities of interdependence in more than superficial ways, if for no other reason than, as Indian writer Arundhati Roy says, now in the era of the virus, a poor person's sickness can affect a wealthy society's health. And we have come to see how easy it has been to unconsciously, or perhaps even consciously, to disconnect from certain people and ignore their pleas for help, for justice, and to be seen in the fullness of their humanity. Theologian and activist Jim Wallace has called the pandemic one of those rare, epic-defining moments, which is what got me thinking about Reverend Dr. Barber and the Kairos moment he says we're now in. Back in April, when our sense of the virus was still new to us and our sense of disconnect was shocking to us, the Brooklyn-based Palestinian-American poet and writer Hala Aliyan wrote, "Never in my life have I been so brutally aware of interdependence. I imagine I'm not alone in this," she said. "All day, I think about my body in relation to other bodies." Brutally aware. She too was being prophetic, though far beyond what I suspect she was imagining in that moment as she wrote about the possibilities of how the virus might spread from one body to the next. Little did she know that a month later, the world would become focused on a black man's body in brutal relationship to a white police officer's body, a black jogger's body in brutal relationship to the white vigilantes who murdered him, a black woman's body in brutal relationship to the police officers who stormed her home unannounced in the middle of the night and shot her to death. Who knew that people would take to the streets as we became aware yet again of something that had been proliferating right under our noses? The very particular killing of Black people and state-sanctioned violence. And what has been so striking about that is that many among the majority in our country, especially the young, awakened from their great disconnect as they joined in protests to acknowledge our connection, human to human. And while this is a very particular American problem, people around the world identified with it as well, whether they identified with their own struggles with brutal state-sanctioned police violence in their own countries, or whether they were standing in solidarity with Black people here in the United States. We are in the middle of an existential shift. Can you feel it? Many of us are horrified by what is going on with our democracy. Whether we are feeling that we are in the middle of an existential threat as progressives or an existential crisis as conservatives. What we seem to be missing, and what is difficult for us to even want to acknowledge, is how connected we are nonetheless. When writing about the virus, Jim Wallace said, amid this fearful time, we must not let fear become a way of life. Learning what it really means to love our neighbors in this crisis will be crucial to our collective health and survival. And while what he says is true of the virus, it is also true of the other ills we face as well, though it is also incredibly complicated and difficult to fathom. We have now shifted into a new moment of Kairos. In the early days of spring, how quiet the streets were. There was such a loud cacophony of birdsong each morning that I thought spring is coming in so powerfully this year. Except that what was really happening was that there was no other noise. And Henry could stand in the street and yell, only to hear nothing but his voice echoed back at him. And while this was understandably disturbing, it was also true that the noise of all of our human machines had subsided, and the air smelled a little sweeter, and the sky was clearer, and we could hear the birds as many of us had never heard them before. Despite this, some of us have longed for things to go back to normal. What others of us are sure of is that we never want to go back to that normal. We need a new normal. These days, we have now opened our doors and feel a little bit braver about going out, about connecting, having socially distant visits with one another, and taking small trips. Even we here have opened up the ERUUF campus just enough so that people in the congregation can connect live and in person. And yet it is so easy to forget all the things we have learned these past months, to forget that we really can't hug just yet as much as we want to hug. Or we forget that we shouldn't get too physically close with those not in our personal pod, and so we sometimes find ourselves situated in what is now regarded as too close to others. I think it's most important that we don't forget the big lessons that we've been learning, that we don't forget the new normal we need to create and the critical importance of this Kairos we're still in. Historically, says Arundhati Roy, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. It is in between time. A new normal that I want to make sure we don't forget is that Black lives matter. And all of those things that so tore at our hearts back in March and April and May, then June, during the spring of our great disconnect, that we remember these things still exist. They have not changed. They have not gone anywhere. They are still here. And so what is our new normal with the people whose lives we intersect with now that we are feeling freer to be out and about? How might we connect in ways that are good and equitable for all, in ways that fully center our interdependence rather than individualism? As we allow those questions to be with us, we'll listen to the song Justice Choir by Unitarian Universalist singer-songwriter Paul Mayer.
Shout, wanna right some wrong, you can sing about it in a righteous song. And if you wanna way to raise your voice up high, you can be a singer in the justice choir. If you are a citizen heavy of heart, you can take a tenor or an alto part. You can be a flame in a great big fire. You can be a singer in the justice choir. Sing out, make a better world, make a sound wave like a flag unfurled. Sing out like a liberty bell, ring out the truth you tell. Sing out, make it be known, sing like the trumpets of Jericho. Sing out at the tyrant's wall, sing until the last brick falls. Sing about courage in the face of fear, sing about light when the darkness nears. Sing about truth to the shameless lie, sing about freedom in the justice choir. Sing about the weak in the halls of power, sing about the earth in a desperate hour. Sing about the poor when the rich conspire, sing about love in the justice choir. Sing out, make a better world, make a sound wave like a flag unfurled. Sing out like a liberty bell, ring out the truth you tell. Sing out, make it be known, sing like the trumpets of Jericho. Sing out at the tyrant's wall, sing until the last brick falls. If you wanna shout, wanna right something wrong, you can sing about it in a righteous song. And if you wanna way to raise your voice up high, you can be a singer in the justice choir.
A wonderful new normal that has resulted here at ERUUF is that we will likely always live stream our services now on YouTube, and beginning in the next week or two on Facebook Live as well, even after we have all returned to the sanctuary live and in person. This has been a wonderful outcome that has happened in a good way. We also have many opportunities to be in literal and figurative justice choirs, and opportunities to consciously create the new normal through many of the activities we offer as a community, some of them long before the current crisis of our time, while others, such as the Anti-Racist Challenge hosted by the White Awareness Group, the interracial dialogues hosted by the Multicultural Team, or the new Restoration for Restitution for Racism group and the program they're hosting during the month of October. All of these are in direct response to the current moment. I can easily say that most of the activities within our community at ERUUF have taken on greater meaning in this Kairos of epic proportions. And so I greatly encourage you to attend the Connections Fair today to learn all about them. There are opportunities to connect to form new relationships, connect to transform lives, connect to make ERUUF a better place for ourselves and the greater world around us. We have moved this fall gathering online today, as Deb said earlier, from 12 noon until 1:30 p.m. on Zoom. And just for a little hint, it works best on the Connections Fair if you can access Zoom from a laptop or a desktop, though other devices will work as well. Information on how to get to the Connections Fair Zoom room will be found in the YouTube chat box at the end of the service or on the front page of ERUUF.org. So as we prepare for the fair or for simply moving forward into our lives, may we remember these wise words from Arundhati Roy, who, whether she did so consciously or not, alluded to this era of Kairos when she wrote, "Nothing could be worse than a return to normality." Historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, our data banks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly, with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it. May it be so. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. Much of our ministry remains online right now, and so your financial support is needed and appreciated, whether you give in this moment using the link you'll find in the chat box, through ERUUF's website, AutoDraft, or by sending a check through the mail. However you choose to give, your generosity is always appreciated. And as the effects of the pandemic begin to hit some of us hard, please be reminded that the Minister's Discretionary Fund is available. This is money that our members have given in order to help each other in times of need. Please contact one of the ministers if you think we might be able to help. Today's music for the offertory is Kate Lewis. We give thanks for the many, many gifts of this day and for the remarkable gifts of Kate Lewis. And as we are reaching more friends of ERUUF, I encourage you to share the gift of this service with the people in your circles. Simply click the like and share icons on your screen or copy the link for today's service and email it to a friend. Today's closing hymn is We Laugh, We Cry. Laura Marie Davis will lead us as Kate Lewis accompanies us on piano, and the words will appear on your screen.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive. And we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth. And we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we shared with friends, they will linger on and on. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow. We have the gift to believe that peace within our living is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together
Our closing words today are adapted from A Friendship Blessing by John O'Donohue. May you be brought into the real passion, kinship, and affinity of belonging. May you treasure your community. May you be good to it, and may you be there for it. May it bring you all the blessings, challenges, truth, and light that you need for your journey. And may you never be too isolated. And may you always be in the gentle nest of belonging. May this ever be so, my friends. Go in love, go in peace, and may your life be a blessing.